Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad, this is my channel, and I'm Orange, and this week in 3D metal model news. Quite a bit from Fascinations this week, starting with the Metal Earth Coming Soon page. There are two new models that have shown up within the past week, one of which I can't say is that big of a surprise to me, is the Targaryen, I almost messed that up, Targaryen sigil in silver. I'd spoken previously about how there is an upcoming exclusive, Barnes & Noble exclusive model of the Targaryen sigil in color, and I hinted that there's probably a possibility that they were going to come out with a silver one through normal channels. Well, it has come true. They do have a silver Targaryen model coming soon. So if you don't want to get, if you don't feel the need to get the color exclusive one from Barnes & Noble, and you've already got the dragon, then you still have the chance of getting this sigil, getting tongue-tied this morning. You still have a chance to get the sigil in silver, and if you want to, paint it the way you want. But anyway, that's coming soon. Another model that showed up early this morning, I had heard hints about yesterday evening, and that is another classic car. We have the Duesenberg 2 SJ 1934 model car. It is MMS 200. This is the model number, so it is a Metal Earth model, not Iconics. It's not licensed. It's not a licensed model. Don't know who would own the license for Duesenberg at this point. 2.5 sheets, multicolor. Obviously, this model is in color. It's 3.94 inches long by 1.57 inches wide by 1.1 in height. And its suggested retail is $14.95. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to stop right there because I want to get this entire thought process out really quick. When I first started building Metal Earth models, before I started doing these news videos, weekly news videos, it was very common to see Metal Earth release things in groups of 4. When they come out with new Star Wars models, it was 4 at a time. When they come out with the new series of models, it was 4 dinosaurs. It was 4 classic models, or 4 buildings, or 4 insects. Once in a great while, maybe 5 at a time. But most of the times, they release things in 4s. Over the years, I've seen that slowly start to change to where you're no longer seeing 4 new models coming soon, or 4 new models popping up as released. You're seeing 1, 2 at a time. And I've noticed within the past few weeks, they'll release 1 model coming soon, and then a week later they'll release another model, and then maybe another model. They're not releasing them in groups so much anymore. I start with that because they've already got a classic model, a very older style model, and I've built it. A lot of other people have built it, and that is the Packard model. Now they're coming out with the Duesenberg model. I can't help but to think that there's a possibility we might get, I don't know, maybe at least a couple more classic models. I do not know this for sure. But with the trends that I've seen with Fascinations and Metal Earth in the past, and the recent changes, I can't help but think that they've got more in the works. And this is just a small hint of what's to come. And instead of releasing things in groups like they used to, they seem to be releasing them 1 at a time. So we've got this Duesenberg out. We've got a Packard that's already out. What's next? What other classic model is coming next? I wonder. One of the other things I noticed with Fascinations, and I'm not the only one that's noticed this, is they have released a 2019 catalog. It's a new and updated catalog. And if you go to their Fascinations page, you can open up and download that catalog, and it shows pretty much a catalog, as you would expect, of their current models, but there's a few hints in there of things to come. One of the things I've talked about quite some time back, they have an Imperial Star Destroyer Iconics version listed in their catalog in 2 different places. Now this is something that I have talked about once in the past at a toy fair. They had posted some pictures, or someone had posted some pictures of it, and I shared that quite a while back and almost forgotten about it. And I've been kind of wondering what's going on with that model. Well, it's coming soon. Have no idea really when. Well, almost no idea really when. Now, again, I'm not the only one that had noticed this. Someone had made a Metal Earth Reddit post, subreddit post, about this being in their catalog. Someone else had noticed as well. And it was pointed out by CodeWiki that the look of the model had changed since the toy fair, which really isn't a big surprise. I remember when, several years ago, when there were hints at Metal Earth Legends type models, and pictures of those models never came to be. The Legends actually changed a little bit when they finally came out. They were actually originally ME Light models. And when they finally came out, they were Legends models, and they were a little bit different. So that's no big surprise. They previewed something. It was a mock-up, but it wasn't the final design. If you look in the catalog picture, it doesn't look to be colored. It looks to be silver. And CodeWookie pointed that out on the Metal Earth subreddit, that it doesn't look to be painted or colored as before. And someone, supposedly from Metal Earth or with connections to Metal Earth or Fascinations, made comments about that. Now, CodeWookie had made a comment that the prototype of this model was quite a bit different from what's shown in the catalog, and T/CHUS Tran posted, "You are correct because the white version in the Toy Fair photos looked too bubbly. Since February, we have updated the coating of this model to the one used in the P-51 Sweet Arlene. Even though it looks like a no-color model, the gray details on the body are actually printed on, so the cost to produce is the same as the colored one. Here are some close-up images." And they posted a link to an Imager photo album with a couple of pictures. "Here are some close-up images showcasing the updated coating. We do think builders will like this change since it looks and feels much better in person." And I originally saw this on the phone. I had to wait till I got to my computer this morning and zoomed in on some of those pictures, and it's difficult to tell, but there is a very subtle gray coating here and there on the model. And also with the close-up pictures, you can see some of the added detail they've added in this Iconics model. And I was excited when I saw this thing listed or shown from the Toy Fair. I'm just as, if not more, excited now. This model has more guns on the top edges or top outer area of the Star Destroyer. I'm really looking forward to that. Added detail to the bridge and that towering section. There's also a lot of added bits and pieces to the engines. It's kind of crazy back there. Really glad I have some cone shaping tools, because I'm definitely going to be tackling that, and I can see some cone shaping tools being very handy with all the cones buried in that engine. But yeah, I had to show some close-up pictures because that is very exciting news. I'd love to see them do more Iconics models of some of these bigger Star Wars. I know some people are getting sick of the Star Wars models, but I love the ships, and I'm fairly fond of the droids, but I love ships. Now, one other thing that was in that catalog was a full color page hinting at 5 more Star Wars Rise of Skywalker models. It's pretty much the same thing they did with the Game of Thrones. It's just a big crate box that says "Do not open," and there's some placeholders for the models. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 altogether, which breaks from the norm that I mentioned earlier, where they used to release things in batches of 4. With not just this, but with Game of Thrones, they've upped it to 5. So they don't follow that 4 batch at a time sort of program they used to follow. But anyway, there's no hints to given as to what it is. The people that I know at Fascinations don't even know. We're actually surprised it was released. The person that I usually talk to wasn't even informed until the catalog came out. So there's no real information to give you as to what they are. It's all speculation at this point, but they know something's coming out and it's going to be 5. And honestly, if they told us what they thought it would be at this point, it wouldn't surprise me at all if that changed before the models were actually released, because that's the way things go. But anyway, I got a feeling at least one of those models is that new little odd-looking one-wheeled droid that they showed a little while back in some of the previews and talks of the movie. But we'll wait and see, and as soon as something comes available, I will let you know about it. Now, moving from Fascinations to Piececool. Piececool has 3 new models showing up on their website as of this past week, one of which we have the Farong Garden or Tang Paradise. They give a name and then they give an English name. I'm sometimes a little bit confused about which is what and whether or not it's translated correctly, but that's what they're giving. It is 15.5 centimeters long, 10 centimeters wide, and 8.5 centimeters tall, and consists of 4 sheets. Another model is the Kongu battleship, and they list the English name as King Kong battleship, but I kind of don't buy that. I wonder if there's a mistranslation there. But that one is 31 centimeters long by 5 centimeters wide by 7.5 centimeters tall. So that sounds like that's another long battleship, which Piececool and Fascinations or Iconics seem to be doing some rather large ships from time to time, and I'm personally loving it. It is 3.5 sheets, And I got a little curious about this one. I am curious and would like to build more of the ship lines that have been coming out, but it's hard to keep up. But I got a little curious, not knowing that much about it, and I'm certainly no expert or anywhere near the person you'd want to get information from about when it comes to military or naval anything. But I did a little bit of very small internet research, and from what I found, originally this was built as a battle cruiser between 1911 and 1913. It was the Congo battle cruiser. It was rebuilt in 1929 into a battleship, strengthened the armor and improved the speed, and then they rebuilt the superstructure in 1935, gave it a speed increase, and equipped it with launch catapults for float planes. I mention all that not just out of my curiosity, but that makes me wonder which version is this. And I can't read enough of what's available to me to find out if it even says, but it looks like it has a catapult on the back for launch planes. I'm somewhat familiar with launch catapults. I have visited a World War II battleship before it was a U.S. battleship, but I remember studying a little bit about the launch catapult. So this looks like in the pictures that it does have a launch catapult, which makes me think it's the last version, the later version of the 1935 refit of the ship. But anyway, moving on, the other model that they have is a Princess Jasmine, and is in a music box category, and it does kind of look like the princess or figure is on sort of a music box with possibly little moving or dancing figurines or horses or something. It's listed as 11 centimeters long, 11 centimeters wide by 19.5 centimeters tall, 4.5 sheets, and it says it has brass parts, but whether or not it actually makes music or can wind up or move, I highly doubt. I don't see any indication either way, but I highly doubt it's probably just a static figure like many Piececool or Metal Earth or Iconics models, but just in the style of a music box with a figure on top. Now those are all set to release sometime this month, so possibly by the end of this month, early next month, you'll start seeing them for sale on places like AliExpress and Crazy Toys. And speaking of Crazy Toys, or Crazy Toys website, crazytoys.co.uk, they now have Wheeljack for sale on their website. And so far as I've seen, only on their website. I've looked around AliExpress for anything new, and I don't see anything, including Wheeljack, on any of the stores that I normally follow, or any other newer models. And I've looked on Crazy Toys US website, and I don't see it there either. However, I do see it on pre-order, more or less, on Tri-M Specialty Products. It is listed as shipping in July, or shipping July 23rd, but you can go ahead and order it if you're in Canada or somewhere nearby. You can order it through Tri-M and get it through them as well. So those are the only two places that I'm seeing it for sale at this time, but Wheeljack is finally available for sale. And one more thing that I noticed a few days ago is that Time for Machine, been a little while since I talked about them, but Time for Machine apparently has an Etsy page. I just recently discovered it. They only have a few models for sale on their Etsy page. I believe at least the metal ones are probably the older versions of the models, but I don't know for certain. They do have a little bit of a discount, but if you're curious and want to know more about it, there's a link in the description below as to many of the things that I'm talking about that you can go and check it out for yourself. But it looks like Time for Machine has an Etsy page. That might be worth keeping an eye on. And that brings us to the end where we talk about the question of the week. And starting with last week's question of the week. In last week's news video, I asked, what is one model you wish ME would make, or series of models? And I got a number of responses from W-E-E-Y-R-A-Y. Metal Gear Solid. So many great model ideas in those games. I've heard of Metal Gear Solid. I haven't ever played it, but yeah, I imagine there's probably a lot of stuff that you can pull from right there. From Danny, hey brother, for this week's question, I'd really like to see Middle Earth come out with a series of modern U.S. naval warships. I'm thinking perhaps an Arleigh Burke class destroyer, or a Ticonderoga class cruiser, or Freedom class littoral combat ship. The Independence class ones look kind of weird. Of course, Middle Earth has their line of historical and fantasy ships, and they all look great, but I think the modern ships have shapes and features that would translate well into these models of varying difficulty, and would probably sell well. Look them up online and give me your thoughts. Take care, man. I haven't looked them up. I do have some idea of what some modern naval ships look like, and I think there are some boxy things out there. You certainly see it's probably a lot of fun if you're into ships. That's certainly a possibility. I'd like to pass that on to Fascinations and see what they say. James Bickert, as far as for models I would like to see, I think it would be really cool to see large naval battleships, aircraft carriers. I'm thinking 12-inch long ones or so. My late father was on the USS Enterprise, and it would be awesome to build that. I cannot say that I would disagree. I'm starting to grow more of a fascination and liking for all the different ships they're putting out, so yeah, keep them coming and make them bigger. Shane Stribley, hi Brad, about this week's question. I've mentioned before I'd like to see a series of old famous hot rods and maybe some of the famous drag cars from the 1960s or 70s. Cheers from Down Under. Not a bad idea. That would make an interesting series of models. Richard Kroll, I would really like to see a series of models based on the Babylon 5 TV series, in particular the Babylon 5 station, a Vorlon ship, a Shadow ship, and a Mega-class destroyer, a Minbari warcruiser, a White Star cruiser, and Star Fury fighter. There are many others. The model work on that show was way ahead of its time. And I have heard similar things, and I hate to say it, I'm embarrassing myself here. I'm a big sci-fi fan, love Star Trek, love Star Wars, watched and enjoyed shows like Farscape. There's so many, I have such a fascination with ships, but I've never gotten around to see Babylon 5. During the time period that was out, I just didn't do much TV. And I've had some opportunity to kind of catch up on Netflix, watched the first episode, took a break from it, and then it was gone from Netflix, and I've just never actually seen Babylon 5. I really should take the time and watch that. I hear the same things. They've got some really awesome ships that I would probably greatly enjoy. Spike Cheese, thanks for the great videos. It would be so good if there were Fallout models. I think Power Armor would be a perfect fit. Also, they could add the Harry Potter series by adding 2-scale wands. That would be awesome. It's an interesting thought with the wands for certain. I think a lot of people would enjoy that, though it would be a real pain getting the shapes and twisted metal pieces just right for those long, thin, narrowish rods. But the idea of some things from Fallout, like the little Pip-Boy, I think I've played Fallout once. The Pip-Boy, though, the bracelet, or the armband computer thing, that would be interesting. Some of the stuff from that and the armor, yeah, I could see that. Albert Fish, it would be interesting to have more around-the-house models like vacuum cleaners, television sets, bookcases with books, double bed, fridges, etc. Maybe like a diorama of a living room and other rooms with smaller pieces for the appliances suited to each room. Good example is the Harry Potter Hagrid's hut with the outside clutter of tools, wheelbarrows, and a pumpkin. Hopefully that makes sense. Would like to hear your thoughts on this and any suggestions. Cheers. That is an interesting thought. The first thing that comes to mind is you're basically describing sort of a dollhouse type thing, but when you add in how Hagrid's hut is set up, yeah, that would be interesting, especially if they incorporated bits and pieces into other models. I kind of think maybe I see where you're going there, but maybe some more elaboration is needed. I don't know that I'd want to do a series of models on household appliances and furniture, but adding those kind of extra details to other models where necessary, like in Hagrid's hut, would be kind of fun. Corey, personally, I like to see a sandcrawler probably be a simple model, but it would look cool. And I like to see them reissue AT-AT that's bigger, since the AT-ST is almost twice the size. Sandcrawler? What an awesome idea. I'd never thought of that. I think a sandcrawler would make an excellent model. And a larger, maybe Iconics AT-AT? Sure, why not? I mean, hopefully this whole Star Destroyer coming out as an Iconics model is a sign of things to come. Why not an Iconics AT-AT or an Iconics Sandcrawler? Or, yeah, I could keep going. What a fantastic idea. CodeWiki. There are so many models that I can dream of seeing, but as far as series of models that don't exist, I'm gonna list my top 2. Anyway, For a licensed series, it would have to be How to Train Your Dragon. For an unlicensed series, I'm going to go back to an idea I had a while ago, a series of Da Vinci inventions from his sketchbook. What another very interesting idea. Some models based on Da Vinci's sketchbooks. What an interesting idea. And that brings us to this week's question of the week, and it's kind of related to last week's question of the week, kind of related to this week's news. I'm going to both extend and narrow down last week's question. We've got 5 new Star Wars models supposedly coming up from Rise of the Skywalker. What do you think they'll be? What do you hope they will be? Or are you just sick and tired of the Star Wars models? Leave it in the comments down below. I'd like to see what your speculation is as to what 5 models they're going to release, or what you hope 5 models that they're going to release. Let me know, and I'll share your answers in next week's video. And that's it for this week's 3D Metal Model News. As always, thank you to my Patreon supporters for continuing to support this channel to make videos like this, build videos and review videos possible. I've got another build video coming up very soon. Probably the most frustrating build I have ever done. That will be coming up very soon. Trying to get things back on track. I'll leave it at that. As always, thank you for watching, and keep on keeping on.